Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Mike, and welcome to the first edition of The Stack Live, Magic the Gathering centric live talk show about the juiciest topics in our community. Tonight, we'll be talking about recent events that have spurred more of the Wizards doesn't care about local game stores discussions. Tonight, I'm joined by our very good friend, JJ, the MTG Strategist. How you doing?
Awesome. Hey, Mike, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be your first guest on the stack. I'm looking forward to, while your standards are still really low, appreciate you getting me in there. But but I'm looking forward. This is a very exciting idea that you've come up with, and I'm looking forward to your future projects. Your future videos of discussions.
I really appreciate that, man. Why don't you just start and talk a little bit about what your channel is and your content?
Well, I would say I'm a casual content creator. I got, eh, I kind of live in an isolated world. I'm in the military, so my life is always on again, off again, and when I'm away, I need something. I needed something to occupy my free time that didn't involve, uh, you know, wild women and
Sure,
alcohol.
sure.
So I luckily I ran into this game, and so as I started playing, I built up, you know, kind of friends in the area, and I needed an outlet for building decks, and I started building a lot of decks and posting them on a blog, which is a great way to just, if you ever just want to vent, start a blog and just vomit all your decks on there. And this guy named uh, Chuck Parr, but from Chuckwagon MTG, he noticed what I was making and he said, "Hey, you want to come build decks for me?" And so now I'm his channel's deck builder, and so he has his channels grown. And I on my what I do personally is gameplay and kind of random stuff, and it's more of a as I feel like it or as I'm able to do it. So, you know, I, my blog hasn't been touched for about a month because, in pre-release before a rotation, I get pre, you know, rotation depression, and I'm unable to cope with it. So I go silent and sit
Hmm.
in a dark room,
Sure.
muttering to myself. But yeah, that's so I'm a casual content creator, but a avid supporter of all content creators.
Yeah, supporter indeed. Has always supported our content, a lot of other people's content. We're trying to return the favor as well. You'll see that his website and social media is on the screen. It's in the description as well. For anyone watching who hasn't checked out his content, be sure you do. Um, you'll he puts a lot of work into our community, so he really deserves.
Thanks. Well, I'm just trying to pay it back. I get a lot of enjoyment out of watching a channel grow. From that first video you see where it's kind of on their kitchen table and the camera's out of focus and the sound's not good, and then you see a year later and they've got this professional channel put together through blood, sweat, and tears. But I love watching that growth.
Thanks. I really appreciate that too. We've put a lot of work into upgrading our style with lighting and sound and all that. So we're just always trying to get better.
Yeah,
So
you're like a role model in channel growth.
thanks. So let's start to get into it. So our first topic, or the first topic that I have for us, kind of starts with the attrition of LGS exclusive products.
Yes.
So, people ask a lot of times nowadays, why is this not an LGS exclusive product? We saw From the Vault get discontinued. Supplemental sets are also not really LGS exclusive anymore. Masters 25 was not LGS exclusive. So, first of all, just what do you think about LGS exclusive products in general?
Well, y- uh, you know, our our community love for the local game store is it's we're very sensitive to it. Um, I think the decisions that Wizards of the Coast make has more to do with what's going on in the world and their position as a subsidiary of Hasbro than they have to do with what what they actually feel is the right thing to do. Uh, a lot of times, you'll have, like you can even take the owner of of a local game store, LGS. Um, they're under a lot of pressure to make their profit, and it depends. That they can depend on the Magic players, or they could build a business model that only slightly depends on that portion.
Right.
Um, I'm being I guess slave to Hasbro. I've thought about this a lot. So did you watch the Manosaurus his rant on uh, the the
Right.
direct sale
The
of
direct sale of
product?
Amazon. That's actually, yeah, we got it right up on the screen too. The Amazon listing of the Guilds of Ravnica booster box.
Yeah. So passionate discussion about that. I I thought about it for a long time, and you know I'm I try to put myself in everyone's shoes and think about how they're doing. So here's what I'm looking at this as a world view. What's happening in the world right now? You know, Toys R Us just declared bankruptcy, right?
Of course.
That's one of the biggest Hasbro outlets in the world. Um, so that's a flare fired into the air. Um, Hasbro needs to find a different way to get product to people. Uh, what else is happening?
Well, just speaking on that point, you know, they kind of also depend on distributors and what they're charging for, distributing their products. The rising gas prices, that surely affects it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not to mention our president, starting trade wars with China, which is, I think, something like 60% of all the toys from Hasbro are
Wow.
manufactured in China. So, you know, I think our mindset of WOTC being that privately owned company that we remember from way back when they were you know, just some guys
Right.
making cool stuff. I think that's not reality. The reality is they're a piece of a publicly traded company that has a bottom line, and if that bottom line isn't met in some form or fashion, they immediately make a change. So securing the future of a company it's a scary thing. Wizards of the Coast has been a staple of Hasbro. It's probably one of the best investments they ever did buying that.
One of their top products for sure. I think just behind or at Monopoly.
Yeah, yeah, and it's reliable. That's the thing, is it's one of those reliable. And I was asked a while back if I thought that um, the paper cards would ever go away, and I don't think they ever will. Because if you look at what WotC's doing, they have this cash cow that's been sitting there called the secondary market,
Mm-hmm.
and um, they can always reach through and put out a product like those challenger decks, or you know uh, they can sell directly to a customer something that an LGS would normally sell.
Right. Pre-constructed decks.
Yeah, or even like they're doing now. What's that? The thing they're selling directly from the Hasbro site. I think it opened today.
Yeah, I'll put that up as well. We had the Guilds of Ravnica Mythic Edition.
Yeah, I think they're testing the waters a little bit to see what kind of pull they're going to get with a direct to customer from the Hasbro site. If they built a model based on local game stores, um, I don't think that would provide enough confidence in the business model to actually get investors to say that, to get the thumbs up from the board.
Mm-hmm.
That, if you said, hey, I'm going to rely on these guys, because, it depends on where you're standing, the success of your LGS, right? I go to San Diego where, 2 or 3 of my local game stores have shut down in the last 2 years.
Whoa.
Then my next favorite one is literally out of the back of a old, looks like a warehouse, with some couch they found on the side of the street. It's a shoestring budget. But then you go
Mm-hmm.
to Florida, like you go hang out in Jacksonville, and it's every other street has a local game store, because their property's so cheap, and they can afford to stay open no matter what. It's
Right. Yeah, and I guess I live in a region where it's a little bit different as well, because it's not necessarily that things are cheap, but just a high volume popularity of the game. San Francisco Bay Area,
mm-hmm.
we've got we got a lot of Magic there. We've got Channel Fireball, one of the biggest retailers as well. So there's a lot of support for it here, but you do see the small shops pop up and disappear all the time. I've played at a place kind of like you described. It was almost in like a weird off the freeway sort of business mall with a bunch of empty office space, and they probably got that for as cheap as you could get. And it was super weird on the inside, really bare and white walls made of stone, but they pop up and disappear all the time.
Yeah, I don't think Wizards of the Coast is doing anything to hurt local game stores. I think what's happening is the world we live in is making it so those small business owners, it's almost unsustainable unless you're attached to a larger franchise like Cool Stuff Inc. or Channel Fireball, or something bigger that's pushing product through you, or you're getting some sort of subsidy to keep you afloat.
Yeah, you see that all the time with like, Star City Games survives, Channel Fireball survives. The other stores that survive are the ones that have been staples in small communities for a really long time. Only LGS in the area for 50 or some odd miles. So, but yeah, at the same time, I don't think Wizards does anything to help or hurt LGSs specifically. Sure, they have promos and exclusives and things like that, but I don't think they do anything from a business perspective to help or hurt them. But I don't know that it's really their place to do that. It's obviously in their interest to spend some time there, but is it really their responsibility to, as just the product creator?
Yeah. Well, they might be adjusting too to the advent of like mobile device games and stuff like that. That's already an impact on the market. Toys R Us went out of business. They're a toy distributor because they couldn't keep up with the big box stores.
Yeah.
Maybe this is just maybe Wizards of the Coast held on as long as they could, and now they have to change. They have to change, because if they don't get their growth, every day a company operates is more expensive than yesterday.
Yes.
So if they're not growing, they're dying. So maybe they just held on as long as they could, and then now had to make some necessary changes. When Toys R Us went down, Hasbro, their stock dropped. It dropped, I think, down. It usually trades in the like in close to $100, and it dropped down to 88, which is huge for a company like that. It was a punch in their gut, and they probably went to all their divisions and said, hey, we need to repair this damage. What do you got for me? And this is probably the inevitability that WOTC saw was, well, we're going to go this way eventually. We can't avoid it. Might as well just do it now and repair this little hiccup in our bottom line.
Yeah, and like you said, you know, every day gets more expensive, and you know, I was just thinking about before I was making this video. You know, we were talking about it in here. You know, how much is a boot? What's the MSRP of a booster pack? $4, right?
Yeah.
You know, what was the MSRP of a booster pack 20 years ago? I think it was also $4.
Yeah.
So you know, I looked at an inflation calculator, and it said, you know, $4 today is the equivalent of about $2.80 in 1998. Which means that comparatively, they are making $1.20 less per pack revenue, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you know, to try to, it's kind of like milk, you know, that you try to keep it the same price all the time, and there's all kinds of subsidization that happens with that. And I think, in my opinion, I think things like the Guilds of Ravnica Mythic Edition, the Comic-Con Planeswalker sets. I mean, I think that's the subsidization of the money they don't make from the packs with inflation.
Right. That's an interesting point about inflation. I didn't even think about that. That they've been selling the same product for so long without increasing the price. It makes me think of comic books.
Mm-hmm.
You know how 20 years ago you had the $1.25 comic book?
Right.
And, you know, good luck finding $1.25 anything in a comic book store now. You know, you know, a $6 comic book is kind of the standard now, $5, $6. And it's hard to do if you lived in that world 20 years ago, buying those cheaper comic books.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I've bought comics, I mean, all throughout my life. And, I mean, yeah, we go to comic stores somewhat often still. And you know, you get like you said, $6 comic, and you kind of blast through it in maybe 15-20 minutes. And it kind of just feels like you've lost a lot of the value.
Yeah, it's painful. I mean, I'm an old tightwad, and I hate, you know, I don't spend money lightly. I have a family to raise and bills to pay and all kinds of other bad habits to keep up.
Yeah, I hear you. So that was a little bit about the attrition of LGS exclusive products. We're gonna switch gears a little bit here. Did you heard about the pre-release that didn't happen?
No, which one?
Okay, so there was a story that broke out pretty big on social media about this. There's this community that usually plays sanctioned Magic events at their local library. Happens all the time. Been playing for years, but their WPN status was revoked before the pre-release, and they weren't allowed to have it. So just to kind of sum things up a little bit, so WPN is Wizards Play Network, and that's what, you know, our official LGSs are part of. That's what gives you the ability to host like sanctioned events, like pre-releases, things like that. Get the promos that you can hand out, as well as get LGS exclusive products. So there was a story that came out by a guy named Bruce Richard on Cool Stuff Inc. actually, and he is actually the tournament organizer for this community. So, you know, there's a picture of these kids playing here and everything. So I guess every few years, Wizards will generally ask for a re-verification of your store just to make sure it's still up to standards for your WPN status. So to describe the store a bit, there's a small card store that's associated with this play area, but their store is too small to host events, so they host them in a space at the local city library instead. Been doing so for years. It's a pretty good arrangement for everybody. The library doesn't charge them for the space. At the same time, it attracts people to the library. Parents feel a little bit more safe about dropping their kids off there because it's, you know, a library. It's generally a safe space for children, so it feels a little bit better for them as well. So Bruce explains the situation to Wizards for the re-verification, and they say, okay, we'll do a video walkthrough of both then. So he submits it, and he immediately receives back basically a message that says that their WPN status has been deactivated because they don't have a dedicated play space. Blew up on social media, like I said. Wizards got a bunch of flack for it, so they ended up sending them a bunch of, I think, pre-release kits, and they had their event after all. But Point was is, it happened.
Yeah, it seems very. I run into a lot of people who are, the spirit of the law and the
The letter,
actual letter of the law
right?
people. And it sounds like the guy that picked up the phone was a letter of the law person and just made a judgment call, which was um, the wrong one. I mean,
Yeah, for
this is
sure.
a game. This is a game for kids and people who want to stay kids the rest of their lives. I mean, you can't gut a pre-release just because you think that you well unless you have, I would say you would need some real cause, you
Yeah,
know, some absolute cause. Uh, this is not cause in any way. This is just a I would call it a splitting of hairs of the definition.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems pretty crazy. And then just, I mean, the thing that came to mind to me immediately after reading all of this was, okay, so they don't meet the qualifications for WPN store. Um, they were requested to re-verify, which I guess would imply that there was an initial verification, right?
Hmm.
So how do you get initial WPN verification to sanction events in the same method that you were playing already, and then all of a sudden you get re-verified, and then it's not up to standard anymore? I don't know if the standard changed, but that just seems a little weird to begin with.
I mean, why does that? eh, I mean, this may be a naive question, but why does that standard exist? Is it policed to the level that, like, do they go around and re-verify everybody's bases? Like, is there like
Mm-hmm.
a
So
annual check or something?
right. So I guess I don't know the exact specifics of it, but from what I could tell based on reading the stories and everything, they don't get requested necessarily all the time. It seems like maybe Wizards doesn't even have the resources to check them every year, so they maybe check a couple every year and try to just hit certain regions, maybe. Um, so I guess the reason why, well, let me back up a little bit too and say that they don't do a very good job of policing their standards either. I've actually, I've reported shady LGSs I've gone to because weird practices or
Mm-hmm.
behavior. Um, but there is a purpose to the WPN standards, I suppose, and that's to try to keep some of the shady behavior out. Um,
Right.
I think also they don't want people just establishing a rack of magic cards in their store and then getting WPN status and then just pocketing promos and selling them on the secondary market.
Right. Right.
So I think it's a kind of a way to establish a legitimate game store.
I was just looking for a loophole to start a game store in my kitchen.
I it's funny enough. So back in January or February of this year, I actually looked into what it would take to get like booster boxes in bulk, by the pallet maybe, because I actually live somewhat close to a local distributor, and I was going to see what it would take for me to establish as a business LLC, whatever, to get some kind of deal like that to maybe sell them on the secondary market, just to make a small profit margin. I was just interested. But they have quite a few rules for actually becoming qualified to receive shipments from their distributors. You had to, first of all, have a brick and mortar store. So you
You
couldn't
can't
just,
sell it out of the back of an RV.
exactly, you had to have a brick and mortar store. And it also had to be specifically geared towards games, hopefully card games, but just games in general, RPGs, stuff like that. So it also had to be pretty specific in that you couldn't just set up a store and put up a rack of magic cards on the side.
Hmm.
And then there was other deeper standards too.
I mean, that's the brick and mortar thing kind of half surprises me a little bit. That you know, because I like the idea of a mobile store.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. on the road, you know.
Yeah, a friend and actually when I was in college, a friend and I tried to start a mobile type store for other stuff, but like, yeah, I mean, I enjoy the idea as well.
Yeah, that'd be actually a really good TV series. You know, you and your buddy tracking the roads, solving crimes, and you have Magic the Gathering in the
That's
backyard.
yeah, I mean, and to sell the sealed products online, you also first of all you had to have the brick and mortar store as well. You had to at the minimum meet the regular distributor standards, and then also had to have other standards on top of that to sell online.
Hmm. No, that's interesting. That's so I guess I can open it in my. I actually, you know what? It probably wouldn't be too hard to set up your house to sell Magic the Gathering. It would be harder to do it in your car.
Right. I mean, if you let's see, if you checked with your local, planning and development, got some permits for your garage, had it modified to standard, you might be able to turn that into a legit brick and mortar store.
My HOA wouldn't have it.
Oh,
God,
well, there's that.
HOA,
Yeah, I hear you on that one.
the great evil. I'm moving away from California one day, just specifically so I can go somewhere where there's not a homeowners association.
Oh, it's so funny. Yeah, I've been living one for like 4.5 years now.
It's like, do you really care if I leave my garage door open for longer than half an hour?
Oh, wow, that's pretty deep.
Yeah, they send us a letter. They said this is your first warning. If you get to 3 warnings, they give you like a $300 fine. And I was thinking, is that 3 warnings for the entire time you live here? Like that's
Wow.
all I get? 3 warnings? Like, what if I do a bunch of things that are wrong all, over the course of 15 years? But that's a whole nother great evil to talk about.
Right, that's maybe episode 10 of this stack.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay, so just kind of generally on this topic, so I kind of wanted to talk about the direct sells a little bit more. It's not it's not totally evil. I did want to talk about some of the things that are good about it, not for Wizards' sake, but for players' sake. Um, First of all, is just accessibility. I grew up in a town that doesn't really have a local game store, so I would not be able to get booster boxes at my game store. If I
yeah.
wanted to buy one, I would have to, go on eBay or something because I basically just buying them from a secondhand retailer online. What this allows someone to do is buy directly from Wizards through a trustworthy source. It's not going to be tampered with. It's going to be packaged properly, and it's going to arrive on time. The other part of it is, some people, their options are horrible. Like I said, I live in a town with no game store, but there was like a hobby card store, and they charge, I want to say, like $140 plus tax for a booster box.
Ooh.
Yeah, pretty crazy. The direct on Amazon is $97, and at my local game store, I actually only pay $90. They just, I think they're just so high volume that they can afford to sell them for that price.
Yeah.
But while we always talk about supporting your LGS, I think at the end of the day, LGS is also a business, and they have to earn yours. So if they're going to be charging $140 for a booster box, then they're going to have to accept the fact that you're going to almost need to find an alternate way to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. You, that I think that just speaks to the business model. That one LGS out here that works out of the back of a warehouse. I've never seen them sell a booster pack for more than 3 for $10. And it's a simple thing they do. It they don't they bring all the people in. They have snacks. They have board games and they have Magic, and these boosters just fly off the shelf. You know, they're not making much money on them, but the people are staying to play games, and while they're staying there, they sell them food. They they have promos where they uh, bring out board games and say, "Hey, we're gonna crack open this brand new board game, and you can all buy in for a whatever prize." And I really think the way an LGS does business means a lot. And when I was in Jacksonville, it was this is when I was first introduced to local game stores. You walk in, there's just a couple people working there. They have tables throughout. They have computers so you can set up your card orders, and then send it to them, and they'll go in the back and pull out all your cards, and you can buy them like that. When if you crack open packs and you want to trade, they do it right on the spot, give you store credit. It was this kind of synergy between playing and buying and getting kind of rolling your profits forward.
Yeah.
That they harness. So I think it would be great if a new local game store could stand up and just get rolling by doing Magic, but that's just not how it works anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of just when we kind of complain about these things initially, or maybe not complain, but react negatively to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, when we're young, we kind of make fun of older people who, refuse to change or what have you.
We're the old men, or we're like the old folks.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I kind of feel like it's us getting a little old and not wanting to see what we grew up with, as children, change into something a little different from what we grew up with.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, our community is here now. It may not, there may be meccas, Magic meccas like where you live,
Mm-hmm.
that people want to go to. Around here, it's just another business, and people, maybe some stores have found that balance, and they're doing well, they're thriving. Others are floundering, the weak fall off. But our community, really, our gaming community is shifting. It's shifting to online. It's shifting to, our interactions being like this, and it's hard for us old folks to swallow that pill, because it's in terms of value, like human value. Yeah, the local game store where you sit in front of someone and you see their eyes
Mm-hmm.
turn red whenever you counter something.
Yep.
You can taste their pain. No, when you know, I would walk into games and I would put all my cards on the table, not literally, but I'd say, look, I've been playing for like a month. I don't know what I'm doing, so if I do something stupid, just let me know. And the game would be friendly, it'd be fun, and they'd help me get through it, and they'd make sure I lost, but at least there was that interaction. And then I found, no matter where I went in the world, if there was a local game store and I went there, I was one of them.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, so that is a huge thing to trade for, an online community. I mean, so you know how in MTGO you can chat?
Yeah.
This may seem like kind of a small thing, but it's kind of a big thing. And then Arena, you can select to say oops or
Right.
your go.
Right.
So,
It's so weird. There's a big difference there.
yeah, you just can't interact. It's like you're separated from the other person, and that's one of the things I don't like. Like, I want to tell that other guy that move he just pulled was epically cool. I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to, yeah, I want to talk across the table, and I, I it's heartbreaking for us that have experienced it, and now we don't want to give it up, and we want to support the people who are trying to make that beautiful thing happen for us.
Right. So, I mean, I don't think the death of the LGS is here. Um, I think that it's actually, to be honest, just as hard as it has been over the last 10 or 15 years to run. I mean, I mean, I guess I'll say it because I'm part of it, nerd culture type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
GameStop kind of blew up because video games have found a much wider appeal. But I never saw more than just a couple comic shops here and there growing up because they're not inherently they're just not popular and very profitable businesses, and they're, because of that, they're really labors of love.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you grow attached to those people. Like when the LGS that I lost was called Villainous Lair, and when Villainous Lair went down, it was crushing. It's like, these are these are the people that have kind of nursed me through every pre-release for the last few years, and I know them all, and uh, they'll email me when something cool comes in that I've been asking for, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's it's painful, and you see these people as Magic the Gathering heroes. They're out there trying to make it happen for us so we can interact with each other. And they're not, they may play a game or two, but they're not sitting at the tables. They're sitting there guarding the castle to make sure that I have a place to come in and hang out with people and talk about Magic and play Magic. uh, that's that's fun to be at. And they're just trying to make enough money to keep going. And I know this move by WotC was a smart business move, and it might even be the only business move. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt us to know that it might take a little bit off the bottom line of a local game store who's already trying to make ends meet.
Yep, and it's going to be interesting to see where the trend goes. So I guess that brings up this question for you then: is there anything specific that Wizards can do to actually kind of shift gears, and is there anything they can do to actually support the LGS inherently without just lowering the prices for them?
That's the $10 million question. Can well, would they want to? Would they want to risk spending a penny in the direction of a local game store outside of what they already do? That's that's a tough question. Um, I if I was being the guy who's not cutting the checks,
Right.
I would love to see Wizards of the Coast reach out in a have like Magic the Gathering academies, or where they invade local game stores and um, bring in publicity, some media
Mm-hmm.
coverage, um, events in places that aren't are the road less traveled. They go to those smaller local game stores and extend them a reaching hand, give them you know so this kind of leads into the like talking about the pro status.
Okay.
I don't want to I don't know if that was one of your topics.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Yeah, no. Go
so
roll with it.
so uh, that is kind of in the same category as local game stores, where you know if you are fanning the flame of the public's love for iconic um, foundational things in a game, like we all, I wouldn't say we all, a huge portion of us like to watch the pros because we namesakes. You know, these
Yeah.
people that haven't fought their way, and they were legends in the gaming world. Well, that's like our local game stores. You know, if they found to promote local game stores in a real way. I don't mean like, hey, you got a link on our Wizards website. I mean some sort of promotion that circles the country, you know, goes from state to state, or
Yeah.
uh, you know what I mean?
Like
Like
an actual
really,
tour.
yeah, yeah, like a local game store tournament, something like that, where you you know all the local game stores in you know Hamilton, Texas.
Okay, very
Uh,
specific.
yeah, well, that's where I grew up. It has
Okay,
no
okay.
local game stores.
Got it.
But these small towns, all the local game stores get together and have a tournament sponsored by Wizards of the Coast, you know, backed up by Wizards of the Coast for, you know, prizes and uh, judges or whatever kind of, excess costs are. But something like that that circles around the United States, maybe around the world, pushing those local game stores into some sort of um, like they're you kind of want your local game stores to feel like they're an insider to the Magic the Gathering.
Right, they're supposed to be sort of your interface with
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast.
And that's why we love pros, because they're insiders, like they know what's what. Well, you go to a local game store, you want them to be on the inside, reaching a hand out to you saying, this is how you get on the inside.
Yeah.
But they're on the outside with us, trying to scrape it, like
Yeah.
trying to claw their
I
way
hear
in.
you.
So I think some love from the mothership would be in the form of games, like actually playing some sort of tournament that moves around the country with them. That isn't a pro tour. That I know they have the opens. Some of the local game
Mhm.
stores sponsor those, but if you want to reinvigorate that guy that plays you know Friday Night Magic every couple
Right,
weeks,
right.
you want to get him excited, show up at a local game store with prizes from WOTC, saying, hey, congrats Friday night, WOTC is sponsoring the prizes this Friday night, and they just happen to be, instead of the usual 4 packs of standard, whatever's in
Yeah,
standard,
yeah, yeah.
you get a box and a trophy. I mean, something as simple as that is just, I think it would just kind of fan the flame of people's love for their local game stores.
Yeah, and I think trophies actually go a really long way.
Yeah, we're suckers for trophies.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm gonna say like and I'm stereotyping a little bit, and I'm including that stereotype. It's not like I was somebody who was a big name in sports. I mean, I played city leagues and stuff like that, but I wasn't somebody who was going out and winning state champs or anything. And people like us do kind of long for some sort of thing that shows that we're really good at what we're into.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're talking about having actual tours and stuff. To that point, I think that like Star City Games has really done a good job with that, at least.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It kind of just makes me itch a bit because I don't live anywhere near them, so I can't go to them. But their tournament structures with the classics and opens and things like that, totally varying amounts of formats. I mean, even their side tournaments that aren't their main events. I mean, the people who win those get plaques, right? So it's like
Yeah.
they really try to promote that sort of, this is your sport, this is your ticket to sort of showing that you're good at something, and you have an opportunity to have fans for it.
Yeah, and it's exciting, if I show if I had a trophy from winning anything, I would bore the hell out of everybody with it. But
Right.
yeah, even if it was something stupid, but worst player for Friday Night Magic.
Hey, sometimes that wins you a booster pack.
That's true, and I can't say that I haven't won that booster pack
we,
before.
we've all been there.
Yeah, but there's WotC can come up with things, and they may be in an awkward position right now with all the changes going on with Hasbro, um, but they can get more creative. Uh, they don't have to play it safe. It's okay to take a couple risks and spend a little bit of capital, because I mean the investment is in a possible distribution outlet. That's what they're investing in.
Right.
I know Amazon and Walmart.com and um, where else? Probably Target. Those are huge box stores that are just going to be shipping stuff. But if you can get, you know, a significant amount of local game stores to assist with that bottom line, I mean, it's why not do it? It's a
Yeah.
small investment.
And so I guess that just leaves us with did you have anything? Did you have any topics that you had left to bring up?
Um, I so I wrote a note down about Jerry Thompson.
Okay, yep.
But so the only response I heard from WotC from Jerry Thompson's, well, for those of you listening that don't know, he protested Worlds, saying he wasn't going to play because he didn't like the kind of the way that pros are treated there in Magic the Gathering, which you can't argue with that. It's not like the pros from any other esport. Maybe Magic is working their way towards that, but I was a little disappointed in WotC's response, which was, yeah, that's something we need to look at.
You're right. I mean, more power to you, brother.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. I and it makes me wonder if WotC understands the value that they like the what a pro can do for you. That Ricky Bobby in the race car.
Sure.
Like a pro can do a lot for a company and can do a lot for sales, especially if you give them money to go out and promote for you. You know, you give them the ability to go out there and push product, which is what the pros do.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they could do something kind of as simple as, if they're going to experiment with direct sales and they want to support their pro players, they could give them like affiliate portals, right?
Yeah.
Buy through your favorite pro player's site, they get some sort of cut of it.
Yeah. Or get like yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like jerseys, right? With sports teams.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great idea. I would do that. I would do. I mean, most pros are my favorite. So, I'm a junkie with any kind of uh, any. I like the underdog too, like the new guy on the block.
Sure.
Think a while back, like a 50-year-old guy won.
Yeah. So, you're talking about, I think it was Gary, I think was his first name. I want to say Johnson, but I might be thinking about the libertarian politician.
Yeah.
So I could be wrong on that, but
we could start the rumor now that Gary Johnson, libertarian.
I kind of forget the name off the top of my head, but yeah, he won GP London with the mono red prison deck, which, funny enough, actually after he did that, I built the deck as well, and I just finished building it a couple of days ago. So.
Oh, nice. Have you taken it out for a spin?
I'm hoping to do it this Friday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But yeah, you were saying you go for the underdog, right?
Yeah, you see the new kid on the block and you're like, especially if it's not some arrogant jerk, it's like some guy that he's there and you could see it on his face like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh, I hope he makes it to the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And usually at that level, you don't see a lot of sour grapes. You see a lot of good sportsmanship, and occasionally you'll see something, but at that level, generally people are happy to make it in the top 8, and they treat each other with respect because they know it took a lot to get there.
Right.
Yeah, which I guess that's where I would say good sportsmanship. I'm a huge fan of good sportsmanship. When you see someone getting beat down properly, and you can see them smiling like, man, this is the end for me, and they
Yep.
reach over and they shake the guy's hand. They're happy that the other guy had a good game, and they hold that anger inside,
Mm-hmm.
and then they go home and you know choke a kitten or something.
I was going to respond to that with, I like to try to be that player, but no kitten strangling here. Um,
I'm glad you waited for me to finish.
but yeah, and generally I hope people try to do that as well. But I always try to remind people, especially when people are kind of getting upset about the game, especially in casual settings. But at the end of the day, it is just that it's a game. It's Monopoly. It's Yahtzee. So you win and you lose, and sometimes random things help you, and sometimes they really hurt you.
Has anyone ever come unglued on you?
I wouldn't say into outrage, but they get the attitude. They get snippy.
Yeah, yeah. I always find it's people are really friendly until they lose a game,
Oh
and
yeah.
then then you can tell if they maintain their friendly nature or if they were just faking it for that first game because they
Uh
were
huh.
winning. but yeah, 'cause I've seen that a couple of times where I've lost the first game and the guy's like real friendly,
Uh huh.
talkative, and then the second game, um, I win and they get um, upset or start kind of picking at me
Uh
in
huh.
a well, that's a dumb card to play, or why would you put that in your deck? That I mean,
Right.
it's yeah, and then end up you know it, I hate that it goes that way because I would concede to someone who needed to win that bad. Like if it's a matter of
Right. If that's what like is keeping you alive, then
yeah,
fine. There you
it's
go.
it's like this has just lost 20,000 for me. I don't really care,
Uh huh.
But if you need this to go home with that smile on your face, but I think that's what drives some people to cheat is they miss the point of the whole game. Is I mean, if you're walking into Friday Night Magic and you're cheating, um, you've missed the whole point of even playing this game. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
about yeah, it's just about two people sitting across from each other and hanging out together and playing something they love, and everything else is just kind of I don't know. I don't know. I don't even understand the need to cheat, like why cheating needs to happen, or why it would strike someone that this I need to trade my integrity to get to win at
Right.
Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
It's
Speaking of just just to throw it out there, I did throw a tweet out at Alex Bertoncini a little while back when
oh
he jumped back into the scene, and he actually responded.
oh
Um,
what do you say?
well, basically, I asked what his plan was for kind of repaying what should have been other people's winnings, right? I think part of the things he's won in the past is like a full set of revised dual lands or whatever.
Right.
He didn't get mad, so good on him for that. He didn't get mad or anything. He gave a very political response that he wasn't sure and was working on it. But since you brought up the fortitude of cheating, I never really understood it either. It's just, I guess the only person that could understand cheating is a pro, right? If their if their livelihood
Right.
depended on it. But yeah, why cheat at the Friday Night Magic?
Yeah. There is. I think there's also redemption. Like you may do something when you're young and stupid, and then
Mm-hmm.
later on, it it's really hard to get that stink off you because you know, Magic the Gathering players are kind of. I would say we're small-minded, but
I'd say that.
we are we are viciously protective of our game. If you violate the sanctity of the game, we will never forget it.
Uh huh.
And so the idea of someone, making amends and being let back into the fight, it's hard for us to come to grips with.
Yep.
So, but I'm okay with that. You know, if you had a track record of cheating and you paid, maybe there should be some sort of, I don't know if there is, you violate some rule and you get banned for a certain amount of time and you pay the price. And
I mean, there is the DCI ban system.
Right. Yeah, I think that there should be a road back that lets people redeem themselves.
I think so as well. I mean, unless you're somebody who becomes, I mean, if you're a habitual cheater, I mean, if you can't play 2 consecutive tournaments without getting a cheating violation, I think there is room for lifetime bans. I mean, that being said, I don't think Alex Bertoncini's in that realm, at least not yet. A lot of what I've seen as quote proof about him is more opinion and sort of weird stuff that can be slighted different ways. So there are definite factual videos of him cheating, but I don't think he has cheated much from what I've heard outside of high level settings. And I think it might even be appropriate to relegate some sort of ban where it's like, you can't play in competitive events for some amount of time, but if you can play in local events.
Yeah. I don't know. I you know what? I'm a softie too, so it's like I think of it like Cool Runnings. John Candy cheated, but he earned his way back after living in Jamaica for like 10 years.
I did not think there was going to be a Cool Runnings reference tonight.
Is it too old? You can you can bleep that out.
No. My brother and I actually used to watch that movie a lot when we were kids. So
yeah,
we liked it.
Yeah. I watch pretty much every movie that comes out. It's an obsession with me and my wife.
I tried to be on that, but I just could not keep up. We used to go to like a cheap movie night. I think it was like Wednesday nights. If you brought your student ID, it was really cheap. It was like $5 or $6, and this is in like 2012, 2013. So
yeah,
that's a pretty good price.
Me and my wife say that we're the ones that broke Movie Pass.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, we got the Groupon for it, and I think in the first 2 months we probably watched like 15 movies, and that was about the time they started sending emails saying, "Hey, hey guys, we're gonna change the terms and agreement of the terms of our contract here." But yeah, now it's like they offer one movie at a certain time at a certain theater or something like that.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I canceled mine a long time ago. But I mean, I got it because I was like, dude, I could really break this if I saw like 3 or 4 movies a month. That's a lot of value. And then I saw like 2 movies over the course of 4 months with it, and I said, okay, I'm just paying for nothing.
Yeah. Me and my wife are definitely devoted to watching every single movie that comes out. And unless it's just ridiculous, but our threshold for ridiculous is pretty low. Like we saw Predator when it came out and we thought it was okay.
Right. I guess I tend to do that more on the back end once everything hits Netflix, so I guess you end up with more garbage than not, but it's fun.
Yeah. Wow, I just looked through, we've seen over 40 movies on Movie Pass.
Wow.
And we also just got the AMC one to replace Movie Pass.
Oh, not from AMC Theaters, got it.
Yeah, their A-list thing.
Yeah.
I like it. It's just a lot of leeway, so. But we're in the process of breaking that now.
Well, more power to you. I hope you find a lot of success with that.
Yeah.
So I didn't have anything left on my list.
No, I mean, I don't know if you want to get into what you're building. I'm actually kind of curious what deck you're building right now.
So, we'll have two different things. So I just finished the modern mono red prison. Um,
Hmm.
so like I said, I'm looking to play that Friday, hoping to play that Friday. Um, it basically is just like it says, it's a prison deck. So it runs four ensnaring bridges to prevent yourself from being attacked.
Hmm.
Runs four chalice of the voids to shut down their spells. Runs four blood moons and two
Wow.
magus of the moons to try to lock the mana out.
Nice.
So we'll see how that goes. It's not a super popular deck. I haven't seen too much gameplay on it on YouTube, except for a guy named Douglas Wolf. He streams it all the time. Um, but it's not a mainstream deck, so I'm curious to see how it fares.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it covers all the bases.
Yeah, right. And then it uses Chandra Torch of Defiance to, get your remaining damage in and finish the game
Right.
off.
Nice.
The other deck I'm working on is another sort of tier 2 or 2.5 modern deck, I guess you would call it. I'm a, like you said, I'm kind of a fan of underdogs, and that comes into play with the decks that I choose. My favorite game mechanic of all time is mill, so I've tried to force that a lot. And so what I'm building right now is a deck called Surgical Surgery. So it runs four surgical extractions, four extirpates, and all kinds of just like black disruption. And the idea is that you just pull all the cards out of their deck, and then you put it over the top with like a Gurmag Angler or something.
Nice. That's your decks seem oppressive.
Yeah, I've noticed that theme lately as well. It's kind of weird. I wasn't really going for that in life, but I guess it just found me.
That's yeah, those are but you know what? I think the prison deck and the mill deck, of those two, I think the mill deck is the one that hurts my soul more than the prison one. Like I'm okay with someone playing cool cards and locking me out of the game, but someone just like making me dump my library into my graveyard. It
Right.
just it because unless you walk into that game knowing that you might get hit with the mill deck,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have any sideboard cards to because it's like one in like you'll play 20 different games and maybe one of those games is a mill game and you're like I'm gonna drop this because I don't have any sideboard cards
Yep.
to stop it.
So M12, maybe it was M11, was really good for that. What I used to do in drafts is just take all the mill cards because nobody ever took them. Lots of like little mill rocks and little guys who mill, and you can grind out a lot of ways, a lot of wins from 40 card decks if you've got a
Yeah.
lot of mill.
There's a lot of cool stuff in standard. I think you could probably pull a mill deck together. Uh,
I have had it on my radar, especially with like psychic rebuilding, right?
yeah.
So my friend and I, we did a two-headed giant event, and we were able to, pull out a win just with psychic rebuilding.
What was your favorite card from the last group of cards that got rotated out?
I would say most likely Walking Ballista.
Yeah.
It's been a real favorite of mine. It's actually in, well, it's in Tron, which I played in the time being while I was building the prison deck. Just borrowed it from a
Hmm.
friend. But it's also in the prison deck as well. So that's kind of, once the game stalls out a bit, that's also how you can sort of get over the top.
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
you?
Well. So I only recently have played um, like decks that are built by other people, but the decks that I build are you're not gonna win a bunch with them, but when they when they happen, you'll glow inside because they're like me and Chuck are putting out a deck I think on Monday night. That's just watch for it. It's
Okay.
stupid. It's a stupid deck, but it uses cards that you really want to like. They're just lying around, and you're like, I should be able to do. It'll be in standard,
Okay.
but but yeah. So, you know, they're decks, they're cards that are just kind of lying around, and nobody's using them right now. And I'm like, we can make some magic happen with these. And so that's coming out on Monday. But it, I like things that are unexpected. Um, I think my favorite, the last favorite deck I built was a mono black creatureless Tron deck,
Ooh.
and it basically revolved around playing Worst Fears, and which you take over your opponent's turn, the next turn,
Okay.
and what I would play all of their creatures, and then I would just it would rotate back to my turn. Then I would destroy all their creatures,
Wow.
and then set them back, back to the beginning. And then there was a bunch of like Torment of Hellfire was in there, of course.
Oh,
So you
yep.
could,
That was another big one.
yeah. So once you've basically emptied their hand, you can prevent them from discarding things to prevent the Torment of Hellfire. But yeah, it's stuff like that. I think I started playing in one game. I started putting the Tron lands down there, and when every player reacts like this, when you see a Tron land come out, you just kind of roll your eyes like, great.
Sure. Oh, I've seen
This,
it. Trust me.
yeah, yeah. You just assume what's gonna happen next. So the Tron lands came out, and then a couple swamps, and the guy actually he said, I was gonna hate you up until I saw Worst Fears come out. It's because that's the thing with the Tron, or playing a deck like one of the like I have the humans deck,
Okay.
the
Yeah.
Jund, and I have some Assassin's trophies to put in that now. I play elves. I love playing elves. Um, so I play those to try to get good at piloting them.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say I don't. I feel kind of bored with those decks sometimes because they're very common. You can watch videos of people playing them. You can
Yeah.
play them yourself, unoriginal. But I I like just a little bit more making that deck that's just a little weird. That's just a little goofy.
Yep.
And when the other person sees it go off, they're like, "Wow, I was not expecting that." And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I was playing Tron. I think I was playing against like, oh, I want to say it was some sort of storm deck or something, and he sideboarded in a Blood Moon, and I was just like, whoa. Okay. I didn't know you're gonna have that. I can't really do
yeah,
anything.
yeah. You just kind of sit there.
And we played and everything. Dude was really nice. And then after the game, he's like, I really need to ask. He's like, were you expecting that Blood Moon? And I said, not one bit. And he's just like,
Yeah.
awesome.
It's like, gotcha.
And
Yeah.
I'm glad I got. That's perfect because I like to see weird stuff happen too, and I think that's kind of the allure of the game at this point is just anything can happen, right?
Yeah. My favorite card that rotated was Gonti.
Okay, yeah.
And I had this deck that just revolved around bouncing Gonti over and over again. And the deck was called Bouncing Gonti.
Bouncing Gonti.
And, because I did the math, and I think you look at the top 4 cards. It's like, you can
Yeah,
bounce
it's
him
the top 4, yeah.
Yeah, you can bounce him enough to steal every good card out of someone's deck.
Sure.
So you may not win, but at least you'll annoy them enough to where they might quit.
That's another type of deck. It's the make them so annoyed that they just don't want to play anymore.
Yeah, they just throw their hands up in the air and say, no, thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to go through all those. I don't want to go through 25. Look at the top 4 cards triggers.
Yeah, I'm done with you.
All right, JJ. Well, I just want to say, thank you so much for joining me tonight. You were great to have on. I think we had a really nice discussion, which will be up in a few days once the archive's done. And any last words?
No, hey, Mike, thanks for having me on. I can't wait to see what else you do with the stack. I'm excited for you to see what you're gonna get out there, and best of luck.
All right, thanks. Have a good night, man.
You too.